Alright, hey, welcome back to Technolyze episode 1, the discussion portion of the video, be that in the same video or be that the actual separate discussion video. We are going through it, we're gonna look a little bit into the art and all of that jazz. We did a little bit of it in the original discussion already. So there you go, right? That's a cool thing to do. Yeah, let's go through it. One of the first things I did see, first of all, it's really cool how we have like, I thought the entire episode looked like that and I was already getting worried. At the same time, I was very excited for the intro because it seemed very cool in the way it was represented, right? We do have a very typical cyberpunk themed beat when it comes to the music. Very, very techno-ish, right? Very, very electronic. With lots of disturbing elements, right? Which set the tone. We do have like mindless masses going about their daily life, if you look at it. Techhnolyze itself, the logo, I don't know, I think I'm gonna have to grow on that. We'll see Ran in the first shot and him, right, looking back at her. And his eye looking at her specifically, right? So his focus is on her, but she goes around the corner, she disappears. Maybe she's elusive, right? Maybe we'll be searching for her down the line after having met her first time. And she permeates the intro. Like there's a lot about her in the intro, but we also have like, kind of like writing, a lot of like the mindless masses thing going on that we already have. All of this is kind of, the entire screen is blurred, it's kind of weirdly phased out, there's a lot of noise going on top of it, but I think that is an actual deliberate choice because there are frames in the anime itself, right, in the episode, that are different than that. So I do see it as an artistic choice that's going on, and we have a lot of like imagery which is barely, where we can barely make out the shapes. Kind of represents, in my opinion, almost like the visual perceptive experience of a bad truck trip or something along those lines, right? Or diving into a weird virtual world, kind of cyberspacey like, right? I'm thinking Ghost in the Shell or something along those lines. Focus on the boots, and we do have this, which looks like kind of almost schematics or something, right? And him like walking past various structures that are kind of broken. And over it's like flashes of her in different places. There's like, right, there's like this almost organic seeming like substance, chemical thing that's going on here. We do have like something that reminds me of or kind of gives me the impression of secret organization, scientific experiments, or no, that's not scientific experiments. I actually misjudged that. It's not scientific experiments, it's like Yakuza or Yakuza. Especially with the sword and everything. And this, what the fuck is that? Is that a building or something? I don't know. And we flash to his eyes again. Her going along with kind of some kind of package. We always flash back and forth between him and her. So they are central characters. I just don't know if they're following each other's footsteps and traces or if they actually meet. That will be a very interesting thing to find out. Interestingly enough, this intro is mostly void of that middle-aged character we've been seeing. So maybe the middle-aged character that we've been seeing in the episode is just a means to introduce us to Ran from an outside perspective that is not our protagonists. We do have that, like, almost seems like a meeting place where there's a monument in the middle and we have a bridge and we're under some archways and he's facing away from her, interestingly enough, while she is facing him. I do wonder what that could mean in the grand scheme of things. But I do know we've seen that monument when our influential guy was lying on the couch and looking into whatever was in his mind's eye. The Madhouse logo. and got like scan lines going over it, almost like it's refreshing the monitor or something. Very cool. And we start in a very dark, dreary place right here, right? And he's just going along. Looks a lot like a boxer too. I said like there's probably some boxing history, and the second frame is like a tilted angle. Completely like you only use half of that fucking screen. I mean, obviously this part of the screen is also space, right? But it is imagined space because it's all in pitch black darkness. So we're looking from like a sideway onto him walking by. And we set up the atmosphere, right? Rusty metal pipes, old decayed buildings, stoneworks. There's not a lot of wood going on, right? A lot of stone, and stone in comparison to wood is very cold. Wood gives you the atmosphere of like warmth, because wood is also can also be burned, right? For a fireplace or something. Stone always seems very, very cold because it saps out your heat when you touch it on like the cold floor, especially in winter or something like that. And we do have like the old weird rusted whatchamacallit sink with like blood splatters and rust and whatever is on there. And interestingly enough, this trinket, which is like that vial where I was like, what the fuck is that? And it seems to be almost like on a chain that you could hang it around your neck or something. And the typical like flickering like neon lights, which, yeah. And it has like a thing on it, 5201 I can make out. I don't know, I can't make out more than that. Something organic is in there. Don't know what it is, don't know how it is. Like the ventilator, right? Very interesting angle looking down on him with the wires hanging out. One thing I noticed, and that is what I was saying during the episode, the sound design of old anime is so good. I feel the same in Monster, which I'm, right, watching on the rotation here. The sound design is so immaculate in this old anime, especially like the ones which are more high quality. And I do feel that is, in part, it's also a necessity, because these days in anime you do have a lot of spectacle, right? A lot of stuff is happening, and right, things are flowing, and you can show a lot of animation, cool explosions, CG action happening. Voice actors have been getting really, really good. I mean, I don't doubt they're really solid back then. But even today, there's a lot more that you do with expression when it comes to voice acting. You do a lot more with color and the way you, right? The way you draw things and all of that stuff. But one of the staples of older anime, good older anime, mind you, not the bad ones, obviously, but one of the staples of those is that there is a lot of focus on how you display something, how you set up an atmosphere, how you have every frame that you show, because you're not showing as many frames, right? The frames are not going by as fast. You're not showing as much on the screen happening. Oftentimes you linger on a shot very long. And that, in a way, is also very distinctly an older anime kind of thing. And that, in my opinion, that is often the case when you can't show quick frames and whatnot happening, so you do have to focus on, how do I set up this shot to be very interesting looking? How do I possibly display something in exactly the way I want it to be perceived, right? Framing. What do I put into my shot, right? Very important shot setting. When you don't use as many, you need to make sure that every shot sits. And the same goes for the sound design. The sound design enhances this experience, the atmosphere, the way you build up a narrative and story. It enhances it so much. And that is why these older animes have, one of the hallmarks of those are immaculate sound design. You hear every step that the character takes you hear the surface they're walking on, right? You can guess that from that. You do hear the old rusty ventilators and whatnot. Obviously you hear that in today's anime as well to a degree, but not as almost authentic as it is being done in some of these, I do feel. That is my personal opinion, of course. And I do actually have to make a quick cut because apparently my camera is running out on like SD slot stuff. Great stuff. All right, we're back. I don't know where I was or what I was doing. I think I was riding home the point of the sound design being amazing. And these old enemies, because they kind of had to enhance the general presentation of the anime by making the sound design so deliberate, by making the direction when it comes to camera angles, when it comes to presentation, when it comes to timing as well, and atmosphere and coloring, that they had to pay deliberate attention to actually have them be spot on. And I do think that some of the older, that is what the charm of some of these older titles actually is, the good kind of titles, the older anime. Monster, maybe Techhnolyze, I don't know yet, right? I mean, it looks promising. The immense thought that goes into every shot, that goes into how long do you hold a certain shot? What do you flash on the screen and how long do you flash it, right? At which point in time are you actually showing too much? Because that's also an element, right? Showing too much. The boxing thing, we had the boxing thing. We have a lot of like low light conditions going on here, which makes it a little bit hard for me actually, because there's like, here's the headlight shining right into my eyes, so I'm actually lit up properly for you all to see. And it's kind of giving me that feeling, like the thing that's on screen right now. So yeah, there's that. We do have like a lot of weird faces going on, like really distorted, cruel faces. And him looking at himself in the mirror, right? Almost like you have a lot of distorted reflections of him. Almost looks like a ghoul right here. And he's washing off his wounds. Again, we're playing a lot with like tilted angles. We're not showing his whole body oftentimes. We're just showing him right from the upper torso right here. The earlier shot had just showing his torso itself, not the head. Now we're showing him from the back. We'll have like this woman slowly approach him, being very well aware that she's the one in power right here. And he's just very emotionless in the process of that. She's not, right? She has that little amused, sadistic smile on her face. And we're going in here with like the super, super bright lights that you see in industrial settings. The design too, right? We have so much static here, and I have to assume that this is design-wise, because in the earlier scenes here, it's quite clear there's no static. So the way we blur this out, we make it very frizzy, is actually how it's supposed to be. Also, not a fan of like the CGI train tracks, but that's fine. And we're blending in these like sexual deal moments. But we're blending that with what else is happening and setting up kind of the world, the general feeling of the world. Focusing on the doll, through which we actually figured out probably this guy is actually watching. And I do wonder if he's actually controlling the doll, or if the doll is the girl or the woman that approached him earlier. Either way, we do have a very sexual scene that is anything but sexual. The blue tone of the light, especially in like great contrast to the red of her like corset or whatever you call that. And him being very stiff, right? There's not the good kind of stiff, right? You just have very unemotional, very detached, very cool how we only show his upper torso here as well in order to blend out him being actual naked, right? His nakedness. But it is implied, and we do know this is the case. She's like kind of almost appearing out of the darkness, right? Like some creepy figure, and she keeps just turning herself on his body, kind of, while he is just completely detached from it, and probably, at least that's what's coming across, hates every moment of that. And the close-up angles, the weird detached shots as well, her being very much like the doll in the forefront. I think this is actually not the position that we're in, right? The doll is actually watching them, and we're just displaying that the doll is watching while this is happening. And they're like just getting close to orgasm, and this is when we do see how suddenly we have a point of view from her shot, implying that somebody is watching from her point of view. At the very least, this is how I interpret it. And he's just absolutely not there in the moment. You see that, right? And this is like the climax, like literally the climax. Well, he's just lying there, and this is like one of the most disturbing moments of the entire episode, when she's putting that, like, first she caresses, right, and then she's going in for the eye with the nail, grinning in the process. And this is like, is it actually yeah, it's penetrating, and that is. And he's showing emotion for the first time, and this is how she gets him, right? How she has control over him, because all of this time he was detaching himself and he was keeping himself away from the control. And this is when the control goes in, and the face distorts, partially because of the eye, obviously, but also to kind of display the emotional connotations and the traumatic connotations of this moment. At least in my interpretation. And this is when he loses it, right? When he rejects her. Yeah. Very sad. Very hopeless. Like we talked about that, or I talked about it a very, very, very short period where I was like, her learned helplessness. Just like that you have internalized the fact that you are not in control so much, the fact that you are absolutely hopeless, and that you cannot help yourself for whatever reason, right? Either because you do not possess the abilities, or because the world is all that cruel, right, and that bad and that hostile, that you truly believe it at that point. And this is like these empty gazes that is just existing because you have to exist, and not existing to experience, not existing to develop or move forward. And all of this is white noise. He's just inside his own head. Very interesting camera twist here with like even the leaves blowing by. I do wonder what that's supposed to express here, because I'm not sure, right? I mean, we turn the angle and somebody's walking past him. This somebody's not important at all, but what's right? And we do see the same reflected in other people of this world, right? This downtrodden feeling. He's just looking for a short period. I don't know if he knows that person, but at the very least he paid attention to him for a second, and maybe this is what pulled him back into the real world, right? Pulled him back into this realm, and this is really reality he's living in. And you see the bleak streets, a lot of browns and yellows and grays being used here on the color palette. A lot of like rusty red as well. Black. We have 3 layers here, right? We have the rusty, whatever you call it, right? The rusty poles over here, the balustrades or whatever that is, was like coming out of the concrete. That's normally just stabilizing the concrete. That's what you normally do when you like put the building in concrete. There's like metal bars going through. You have like all of these sewer pipes, and this looks like a typical like drainage almost, right? Like almost like a river, but at the same time it's drainage, and it's dirty, and it's polluted and all of that. Again, all of these tilted angles. Very narrow alleyways. The light has very little way to shine through. We do feel like you feel claustrophobic. It feels like you're being narrowed and boxed in. All of these things. A singular white t-shirt just being strung out. An AC unit that's old and rusted. Telephone poles and that monument that we've been seeing in a couple of other shots. And we're moving like different layers. This is super interesting, right? From the shot with the staircase and the railing is one layer, and the next layer is like that building to the right side, and the next layer is that building to the left side with the with the others, like with the metal staircase. And then we got yet another layer, which is, I think, the buildings to the left side in the background, as well as the buildings all the way in the back. And then I think the last layer is the monument and the skybox. They're all kind of these are moving together. So we have 1, 2, 3 layers, and we're going into like a sewer kind of thing, where we do see like all of these old human parts and robot parts and all of that stuff that's been washing up here. And I thought that was the doll's body, but maybe it's not. I don't know. So in that case, I don't know why they were following him. Probably because he hurt her, maybe that was the thing. Right, and we already see people searching, but I don't know if that is people actually searching for him, or if this is people searching for Ran and the other ones. We don't know that exactly yet. A lot of like mirrored reflections of people in the water, in the not quite clear water, which I absolutely love that, playing with that. Reflections are always a very, very fascinating thing for me. Very symbolic in many ways. And we do have that separation, right? That person in the supposed, I don't know, whatever, reactor shaft, and then her being a little bit removed from that. I'm always, whenever I have like zoom in shots or zoom out shots like these, I'm reminded of like the Lord of the Rings thing, where like right in the beginning when Frodo's still in the Shire, and suddenly like he looks at like he doesn't want to be on the roads, and he feels uneasy, he looks down the road, and suddenly the road zooms in weirdly. Right, here we also have like different layers zooming in and out, but it's kind of just supposed to represent like the distance between our two characters here. In this shot, like an empty room, there's no furniture. It's just like a giant window on the one hand, and a couch at the end of it. Two people, one just lying on the couch, the other one sitting by with a telephone in her hands. Holding it, and you don't even see the cable connecting to it, although that is probably just simplifications in that sense, right? Abstraction. We have a little bit light coming in. Interestingly enough, the light is shining on him. He's not in the darkness. The darkness is at the other corner of the room. I guess this could be suggesting in a way that there's dark dealings going on, or some weird stuff or whatever. And we do have a doorway here. But that he himself is out in the open, right? He's making himself visible. He's not afraid to put himself out there. That's how I'm reading that. And maybe he's a very important character, right? I have a couple of characters that are important right now. Aside from our main character and our other main character, Ran, and our middle-aged man who might or might not die at some point because he doesn't seem to be in the intro. But then again, all the other side characters aren't either. We do have this guy who is like some kind of influential guy. We have the lady, right? The woman who was kind of commissioning our main character in the beginning. And then later on appears when he is actually getting punished for whatever exactly he's getting punished for, as like possibly head or part, like a big, like some big shot in the organization that has been following our main character. And I do still feel like maybe this isn't no, it's not. He's not missing his arm, so this must be either right now as it's happening or it's in the past. I think it's more in the past, because right now he was right on the run, right? He was just in the sewer and right had the money in his hands and all of that, and had a, I don't even know if he had a gun, but I think he had a gun. So I don't know. And then we have this character also on the phone, probably talking to the influential guy, right? And he's the one who was dishing out the punishment later. He's in some kind of saloon or headquarters of something, right? Could be a Yakuza headquarter or something akin to it, at least like in an equivalent in this fictional world that we have. I do love that, how it passes by with the archways and whatnot, and it all looks the same. It's like it's looping, but like as we're passing by, obviously, since some parts of the scene are further away, we're kind of just right there's like it's kind of not matching anymore. But if we're going, whenever like we're going past it earlier, it suddenly there's this one moment where it's all in one line. Beautiful. And she's not talking. I don't love that, right? This is, you don't need that shot, but it's really cool. Looking from the train tracks, right, from down below, we only see like feet stepping out, and it feels like these, first of all, it feels like we're watching something that maybe not everybody's supposed to see. And it also feels like, it also kind of feels like we're not getting to know the character as well by just watching their feet. I mean, we see them for a second a little later, but it's a deliberate choice how much time we spend focusing on a character in comparison to maybe just showing parts of them and not revealing who they really are, right? Not making us, not enabling us to make get an actual impression of who this character is. The little lights reflecting on the surface of this, and we do see reflected the iron bars of like that scaffolding there. More and more pipes. And this is when we flash back and forth, and we do have some human expressions going on the first time, really. Something that kind of grips us, right? Something that draws us in, because this is something we've been lacking throughout most of the episode, so it immediately is interesting. We immediately identify ourselves with it because it is something human, right? An emotion. Right, old machinery, old tanks or something, valves and pipes. Really looks like he's in an old factory or something, or like a water pump, right? Whatchamacallit, right? And this looks like a guard, right? Like they had set up a checkpoint or something. I can't tell if that is underneath the ground or not. I think it is not. So he was climbing down something, so there's something up there, but at the same time, when he's going out there, there is still supposedly the sky, right? So we are not all the way below. There's some visibility to the sky. At least it looks like that. It doesn't look like we're in a tunnel per se. It looks almost like old ruins, kind of. Right, I don't mean in the way of like just ruins of a normal building, but old ruins, like if you look at like Aztec villages or some shit, right? Something like that. Reminds you of that almost. Interesting how clear the water is with the koi, right? Like in comparison to all of like the dirty water that we've been seeing all this time, and now it's so clear that we can see the koi through it. He's using the backpack as a shield, so there must be something really, really resistant in there in order to actually do that. And I do love the lighting in that scene. It feels imposing, right? Because we're in our main character's point of view, and we're looking upwards, and you immediately see like this is the main guy, right? The guy with the sword and who's in the center of the screen, kind of slightly off off center, which is like a very neat trick to make it not look too boring in terms of like the shot and whatnot. I mean, there's shots that are cool when a person or something is like completely in center as well, but it's a deliberate choice, I think. And they're all in suits, right? Kind of giving you the impression that it's an organization of some kind. Reminds you of like the mafia, which is why I said Yakuza. They're kicking away the gun, like, now we got you. And he's still kind of just, I love that with the, right? Like the light shining off of the sword, and it's slowly revealing his face. And this is the first time that he shows a real emotion. And that too, right? You see like that the gunfire and everything is going off, and half of her face is shown. Tilted as well. This is a very interesting shot. But yeah, I guess that's about all. I only saw like, I said that before, the scar on her face. I don't know, I can't really identify it perfectly yet. This guy looks like a janitor, to be honest. It doesn't even look like he really has a suit on or something, just like he has like some weird trench coat or uniform. But the rest of them actually have proper like suits, trench coats, whatever. The way we make like that glitchy, right? And we really curl the tongue. It's very inhuman. I do remember Cyberpunk Edge Runners had one scene where we had like, right, opening up and then we're going inside, which was a very trippy, interesting scene. Here we're not going inside, we're just distorting the proportions and all of that, and we're just let the hand fall into the blood. Which is interesting because immediately afterwards we show a lizard, which are known to be able to regrow limbs. Foreshadowing, I do feel like that is foreshadowing. But also lizards are very inhumane seeming, right? Very cold, very detached. That is the general feeling we have in fiction when we represent like lizards and something like that. Yeah, and then we go over to the outro, like to the ED with the rose, where we talk about brilliantly white t-shirts, a rainbow of splash and water. We saw a white t-shirt early on. Right, a rainbow on a splash of water, which is interesting because we just have a splash of water and we have a rainbow. Represents like that the tiniest speck of water can create a rainbow. It's interesting. I mean, an interesting way to phrase that, I think. You have nothing that was the happiness only you and I shared. Have nothing, right? Having nothing being happiness? That is grim, right? But it is, right, solace. I would call it solace, right? Finding solace in that shared reality of having nothing. Maybe having nothing can also be good if you having something would mean having pain, having trouble, having burdens. Deeper than any other, I lost myself in your heart and all. Yeah, I mean, this reads like a love song, and I'm still here looking for only at you. I want to, right, if it's a dream forever lost, destroy it for me, please. If it's a dream forever lost, destroy it for me, please. Like, destroy my dream if I can never achieve it. And the dream is, I want to see you again. Be sure to see what that means in the end. As melancholic as it sounds in many ways, it also sounds very, like, it seems very, in presentation, you have a lot of white, you have a lot of like red, but not like blood, but more like flowers, right? We do see the flower itself. Very calm and very bright, almost. I mean, I don't want to say cheerful because we do have that addendum of like, if it's a, right, if it never comes true, then please destroy that dream for me. But we do have maybe hopeful, like a speck of hope in there. Yeah. That was Techhnolyze, episode 1. I do hope I'll see you on episode 2. It should be up on when I release that, it should be up on Patreon right now. So go check that out if you want to. And yeah, check out all the other links. Tune in for the next one. I'll see you next time.